It's a very strong memorandum of understanding. That is a little conceptual, but it's something that's going to get done. And if it doesn't get done for any reason, which I can't imagine that not happening, they want to sign it as much as I do or more. I would say they want to sign it more, maybe a lot more.
In terms of the text, I can tell you that the text is mostly finalized. The problem is that the contradictions in America's position has caused turbulence to this process.
Why are US military giants suddenly flooding Switzerland, moving large transport aircraft and logistical support into airfields near Geneva in a buildup that has prompted speculation about whether Washington is preparing for high-stakes contingency operations tied to imminent diplomatic events? Why are C-17s reportedly carrying what officials describe as special equipment to Geneva ahead of Iran signing talks? A detail that has generated questions about whether the cargo includes protection, extraction, or rapid response systems intended to safeguard delegations or secure vulnerable assets. Reports note that 4 C-17s were allocated for Vance while 5 were assigned for Trump's use, a distribution that has fueled debate in policy circles about whether US planners are anticipating trouble at the talks and are positioning assets to protect multiple principal actors simultaneously. Is Iran on the verge of receiving a landmark deal that could reshape regional geopolitics, or is the United States maneuvering to secure its own strategic advantages? Questions that the simultaneous diplomatic fanfare and military movements around Geneva have left unanswered and that analysts say could determine who, if anyone, truly benefits. Washington has begun a logistical buildup in Europe ahead of a possible US-Iran signing ceremony in Geneva, moving airlift and support resources into position to ensure secure and rapid operational options if high-level diplomacy requires immediate protective or contingency measures. 4 U.S. Air Force C-17 Globemaster transport aircraft were dispatched to Europe on June 11th as part of these high-level preparations, a visible demonstration of strategic lift that officials say is intended to support concurrent missions and provide rapid mobility for personnel and equipment. Speculation is mounting that a deal to end the Iran conflict could soon be signed in Geneva, with diplomats and intelligence officials monitoring movements closely for signs that negotiators are converging on final terms and that ceremonial arrangements are being finalized. Reports indicate the USAF C-17s were supporting 2 concurrent VIP missions to Europe, a dual-tasking approach that suggests planners were preparing to move and protect more than one senior official or delegation at short notice. The aircraft were reportedly carrying specialized equipment intended to support a possible visit by US Vice President J.D. Vance to Geneva, gear that could include secure communications, protective material, and logistical supplies for high-profile diplomatic presence. A signing ceremony was slated to take place in Geneva in the coming days, an event planners have treated as both a diplomatic opportunity and a potential flashpoint requiring close coordination between military, security, and diplomatic teams. Those movements occurred alongside separate US military support flights for President Trump, indicating parallel preparations to sustain presidential travel and to provide layered security for multiple US principals operating in the same theater. President Trump is expected to attend the G7 summit near Geneva, and 5 additional C-17s were reported to be delivering equipment and support for the presidential delegation, underscoring the logistical scale of hosting senior leaders in a compact diplomatic environment. Secret Service and White House support assets were flown into Geneva as preparations intensified, a necessary step to ensure the safety, communication, and continuity of operations for visiting US officials during what could be a delicate and closely watched diplomatic moment. President Trump says a breakthrough in US-Iran negotiations may be closer than ever, with a possible agreement expected within days. Speaking at the White House, Trump revealed that key documents are being finalized as negotiators work toward a formal deal. Trump insisted that both sides are eager to reach an understanding, describing the current momentum as highly encouraging.
Mr. President, on Iran, how confident are you that there will be a signing this weekend? Because you have come close to sealing a deal, but at the last minute it has fallen apart. And
it'll be soon, maybe this weekend.
And has the Supreme Leader approved this deal, sir?
I understand the answer is yes.
And when this deal is signed, is the United States going to immediately lift the blockade?
Yes, that's true. That's part of the deal.
And
you'll have oil prices dropping like a rock.
But has Iran committed to not pursuing a nuclear weapon, or will there be more negotiations on that down the line?
They will not have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that. There will be no, which is the whole reason which is a big part of the reason.
Is that
maybe
going
the
to be in
biggest.
your agreement, sir?
They will not only not have, they will not purchase, develop in any way, any shape, in any way, shape, or form a nuclear weapon. They will not have a nuclear weapon.
But is this just the concept of that agreement when it comes to nuclear? You said this was just the concept of that agreement. So is this just essentially setting the stage for deeper talks on nuclear?
It's a very strong memorandum of understanding. That is a little conceptual, but it's something that's going to get done. And if it doesn't get done for any reason, which I can't imagine that not happening, they want to sign it as much as I do or more. I would say they want to sign it more, maybe a lot more. But it's a very detailed memorandum of understanding, also agreed to by many other countries that have great influence over them, and everybody wants it done. So it's going to get done.
Mr. President, is there a specific amount of time that has to pass between this memorandum of understanding and a final deal being done?
Well, we hope it's going to go relatively quickly, but it's...
Is there a 60 or 90
I mean, the
day
straits are
deadline?
going to open immediately. It's upon signing. Maybe it'll be Saturday or
Or
Monday.
is there a deadline, though, to get from this to a final deal?
We think it's going to go pretty quickly. I don't want to say a deadline because if I say a deadline, you'll say, oh, he didn't meet the deadline. You know, this is like, it's not going to matter much because it's going to get signed.
Qatar's leadership has remained actively involved in mediation efforts, holding direct talks with Trump on the proposed agreement. According to Qatar, the framework emerging from negotiations has received broad backing from the key stakeholders involved. Doha praised ongoing diplomatic efforts, expressing hope that a deal could help bring stability back to the region. Diplomatic sources say negotiators made significant progress, narrowing several of the key gaps that had stalled talks for months. The latest negotiations reportedly centered on the release of frozen Iranian funds, maritime security in Hormuz, and the future of nuclear discussions. Officials familiar with the talks say Qatar's mediation helped produce an agreement in principle, raising hopes of a broader breakthrough. Qatar Emir's office statement read, and I quote, "During the call, the two leaders discussed the close strategic relations between the two countries and ways to support and enhance them in addition to the latest regional and international developments, particularly those related to diplomatic efforts for de-escalation in the region," unquote. Despite progress in negotiations, reports suggest the proposed agreement cannot move forward without final approval from Iran's highest leadership. Sources say Iran's leadership is carefully reviewing the terms of the understanding before deciding whether to formally endorse the deal. As the Iran conflict entered its final stage, reports claimed the United States was only about 3 hours away from launching a new round of military strikes. U.S. military forces were reportedly stopped from firing missiles after Donald Trump announced that a deal had already been reached. At the time, American forces had already received formal orders to carry out strike operations later that same evening. According to reports by NBC News, operational planning for the strikes had reached its final preparation stages. The U.S. Navy had also reportedly adjusted air operations and prepared munitions as part of an approved strike package. Officials described the entire operation as being in its final phase before it was suddenly and unexpectedly called off. Karg Island was reportedly not included on the approved target list, despite earlier reporting suggesting it had been considered in preliminary discussions around potential strike options. Donald Trump had previously referenced Karg Island and Iranian oil infrastructure in public warnings, linking them to broader threats and signaling they could be part of possible military responses. Officials further said that Trump's public posts did not fully align with the internal operational planning that was already underway. Military forces were reportedly most surprised by the last-minute cancellation order, according to officials cited in the report, as it came after preparations had already reached an advanced stage. U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs Chairman reportedly visited the White House to discuss Iran-related military options with Trump prior to the final decision. Trump then reportedly posted about canceling the strikes shortly after that high-level meeting, according to officials familiar with the situation.